And welcome to another one of Andrew's book reviews. So today's book review will be on A Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan, uh, first book of the Powder Mage trilogy. I know it's the first time I've read anything by Brian McClellan, so I always look forward to reading a new author and seeing how that goes. And let's take a look at the first book of the Powder Mage trilogy entitled A Promise of Blood. So the beginning of this book. The age of kings is dead, and I have killed it. It's a quote by Tamis, field marshal and military leader in this world that has been created by Brian McClellan. So the world has been divided into 9 different kingdoms, generally referred to as simply the 9. Ancient legend and lore has it that this was done by the ancient god Kresimir. The 9 kingdoms were ruled by nobles who surrounded themselves with advisors of the most powerful magic users in the world, commonly referred to as simply the privileged. Long ago, Kresimir is said to have made a promise that if the nobles, or also known as the privileged, or the citizens of the nations ever turned against them, being the kings of the 9, that he would return and avenge the death of the king. This myth and legend was passed down through the privileged lore as a means to keep them in check, in constant fear of the wrath of the god Kresimir. This world that Brian McClellan has created is set in a period of similar to the Revolutionary War. So we're looking at 1700s, 1800s kind of time frame. Bayonets, guns, mixed with magic and sorcery, religion and gods. Within this world, there are classes of magic, users with varying levels of ability and strengths in different types of magic, each with their own unique weaknesses that could also be exploited. But first, let's take a look at the different classes of magic users within this book. First off, there's the privileged, which are the most powerful of these magic users, and control their magic with no need for any kind of external substances such as gunpowder. They have the ability to manipulate the world around them and create destruction wherever they go. Each of the 9 kingdoms has their ruling class, the kings and their royal cabals, made up of the most powerful of the privileged in each of their respective nations. These privileged serve as advisors and counsel to the kings. Their weakness is that if they lose their hands, they can no longer perform magic, and thus become weak and vulnerable. They also must use these special privileged gloves to invoke their magical abilities. The mage breakers have this unique ability to shield and disrupt the spellcaster and magic user, such as the privileged, and would often be used on campaigns against the privilege. While this category of mage is mentioned within the book, there's not a lot of information about them as it is only brought up briefly. No weaknesses are brought up for this class of magic user, so at this point, it is unknown if they have any at all. Well, now the powder mages derive their magic through gunpowder. This gives them the ability to control the powder and bullets in flight or hand. They could ignite gunpowder from a distance using their magic, and enhances the power of the mind as well as their senses, which make them less vulnerable to pain and exhaustion. Often, the gunpowder would be taken in like one might sniff cocaine. The weakness is that it can be addictive, and users may suffer from withdrawal symptoms if they become too dependent upon it. In addition to that, if a powder mage's blood, for example, were infected with gold, it would render them incapable of accessing the magic derived from gunpowder. And then there's the Nact, which are among the weakest of the magic users. Their skill is simply in having a single talent. They are highly skilled in one form of magic in a singular skill. It could be as simple as cooking amazing meals or detecting the privilege, or when someone is lying. Useful skills, but nothing that can damage or harm others via the use of magic, at least not in any kind of direct way. Now, for the characters. Tamas is a famous military leader and a war veteran. He's a field marshal with a reputation for military strategy and genius. He is also a powder mage. He's getting old though and tired, and he feels that his country has been lost, not from external threats, but from the tyranny and bad governance of the king. He's a man whose character reflects a man of convictions, strength, and integrity. He is, however, haunted by his past and highly motivated by the murder of his wife by the Kez government on a diplomatic mission. Despite his denials of this, I suspect he's just as interested in revenge as his statements of simply seeking justice for the wrongs committed against the Adro by the Kez and the Adro governments. Tamas has staged a bloody coup and overthrown the Adro government and assassinated the king, Manhouch. He has rounded up all the privilege of the royal cabal and publicly executed them and their families, ensuring an end to the monarchy. A few have escaped, however, and the end of this struggle is far from over. The dying words of one of the royal cabal during the opening battle, "You can't break Kresemir's promise," leaves Tamas with a mystery of what that means for Adro and his military coup and takeover. Tennille, Tamas' son, who is also a military man, as well as a powder mage. He spent his life hunting privilege in the wars and is now doing so for his father. He's become quite good at it, actually. Tennille, however, has been sent on a mission that he may never be able to accomplish. He's been sent to kill his best friend, Bo. Bo is an exiled privilege and former member of the Royal Cabal of Adro. Like all Royal Cabal members, he has been magically bound and compelled to avenge the king's murder in such an event. This is a compulsion that cannot be undone except in such a way as the death of all the members of the Cabal itself. As the lone surviving member who has been magically compelled in this way, either Bo or Tamas must die. Tennille must choose between killing his best friend or protecting his father from this compulsion. Killing Bo, however, may mean the end of the Adro, as the army of Kez along their entire border and the entire royal cabal of Kez marches to Adro to its sure destruction, and Bo may be the only one of a few left who can defend Adro. Adamant, who is a former police inspector now turned private investigator. Tamas has contracted him to find out what Kresemir's promise is and to find out who's betrayed him. His investigation, however, has placed him in a position to either have to betray Tamas or save his wife and children. So he could lose his entire family or betray Tamas. He finds himself torn between duty and family. He is trying desperately to find a way to keep his family safe, while simultaneously not betraying Tamas. This book is called A Promise of Blood, and I have to say, it fulfills that promise quite well. There is no wait time or lead up to the first bloody scenes. It bursts out of the gate running with an intense battle and a coup with assassination of Manhouch the king, and it does not slow down from there. Every page, every chapter is just full of intense, non-stop moments, action-packed read that makes this book very difficult to put down in a true page-turner. The world building was well done, though not as in-depth or as detailed as other writers, but certainly established how this world and magic system works very effectively. Like any good magic system, there has to be weakness. Otherwise, your magic users are invincible, and the result is an impossible situation, which honestly is not good storytelling. A good author can write what appears to be an impossible situation, but eventually must reveal a weakness or strength of characters to overcome whatever the problem is. There is a weakness to each type of magic that helps to balance the playing field. This is an important aspect of any good magic system and world building. If a magic system is too weak and easily overcome, it really makes for poor storytelling. However, if it is powerful yet can be overcome, this is, for me at least, an important aspect of any magic system. Promise of Blood balances these two needs quite effectively in a believable, plausible, and realistic way. This book, honestly, it leaves me quite excited to read the next one in the series. However, I've not yet purchased purchase The Crimson Campaign or The Autumn Republic. After reading this roller coaster ride of a book, I think I may have no other choice but to move those books up on my wish list for the next ones to be purchased. Reading a new author is always risky when buying a book because you have no way to really know if it'll be worth the price. But I have to say, this book is most definitely worth the price. It's just awesome. I can honestly say that McClellan has won my fandom, and quite effectively as well. Read it. I'm sure you will not regret it. This one is an easy 9 out of 10 worms for me.